Hi everyone, happy Friday, May 8th, 2020. I hope you have enjoyed learning about how living things depend on each other to survive. That's what we've been talking about this week. Let's just do a quick review of that. On Monday, we watched a video and talked about how living things depend on a habitat. And remember, we said a habitat is where, if we go back to our description or definition, is a place where an animal or a plant lives. And so we watch a video to know how all living things depend on a habitat to meet its needs for water, food, and shelter. And not just animals and plants. Us as humans, we have a habitat, a place where we live, and we depend on that for shelter, a place to where we have water to use for cooking, for washing, for bathing. We have shelter. That's a place where we are in for protection. We are inside a home to keep us safe from the weather outside. So not just animals and plants, but also humans depend on a habitat. So we talked about that, and you shared with me some things that you learned from the video. Then we moved on to Wednesday, and we talked about this really big word called interdependency. Can you say that? Interdependency. And that is how living and non-living things depend on each other to survive. You created a tree chart to show me. You picked an object in nature, and then you created a tree chart to show me how these things depend on each other. So for example, a flower. I picked the flower, and I thought to myself, I asked this question about the flower. What depends on that? Well, I said here that bees depend on flowers for food, for the nectar. The nectar is the sweet juices in the flowers. And the bee also picks up some of that pollen. It rubs up onto the body of the bee. When the bee goes and flies over to a new flower, that pollen that he has on his body, the bee has body, rubs off on the new plant, the new flower. And then what happens is that pollen fertilizes, and that new flower makes new seeds, and we know that those seeds make what? They make new plants. So then I came down to this next box, and I said, what depends on bees? Who or what depends on bees? And I said animals depend on bees. They depend on bees because bees do the pollination that I just described. So without the pollination, we wouldn't have new growth like nuts and berries and seeds and fruits. So pollination makes food, and animals need that food, right? Then I went to my last box, and I thought, can I answer this question? What depends on animals? Well, I said, we as humans depend on animals for a food source, or even to help us with some work, like animals that work on a farm. So I hope you enjoyed learning about this week. Today, I have a very fun story. I really love this book. It's called Cactus Hotel, and it's by Brenda Z. Huberson. And I want you to read this. And this activity, parents and you guys, is totally optional. You don't need to submit anything to me. If anything, if you do want to do this activity and you feel like you want to share this with me and share with the class, feel free to snap a picture, and I would love to share it. But just understand, this is not required. This is just a fun activity in our week of science with this. So if within the Friday assignment, if you go in there and you click on the Cactus Hotel link to take you to this book, read the book, and if you want, you can complete this activity in your journal, and you're going to think about tell how an animal and the cactus depend on each other to survive. So I chose in this, and without wanting to spoil the story, I just chose a bird. I chose a bird as in the story, and then I would fill in the blank. I said the cactus depend on, what do they depend on? Well, here guys, it depends on rain. Even though cactus don't need a whole lot of rain, it just does need some rain. So I can finish this sentence. I can say the cactus depend on rain. Then down here, the blank depend on the cactus. Okay, do you see this bird, my picture of my bird? This cactus, or this cacti, because it's only one, has a beautiful flower that grows in, what did we say is inside a flower? The nectar, right? So this bird, the bird depends on that cactus for a food source. This again is totally optional. You don't have to do it. But I would like you to listen to this story because this is a perfect example of how this cactus out in the desert totally depends on other animals and how animals depend on the cactus. So you might think, oh, why would an animal depend on a cactus? It's got the prickly spines on it that might hurt you if you touch it, but it's really interesting and beautiful to see how all living things depend on each other. So I hope you enjoy the story. One more time, this is totally optional. If you want to do this and share your picture, I would love to see it. Guys, I hope you have a fabulous Friday. Have a great weekend. Do something special for your moms because we know what Sunday is, right? All right, guys. Talk to you soon. See you next week. Goodbye.